Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of Max Talks Movies and a new ranking video. And today I will be ranking all 10 Harry Potter movies. This includes the 8 Harry Potter films and the 2 Fantastic Beasts movies. All 10 of these movies will be ranked right now on my channel. If you like movie rankings, streaming platform reviews, TV show reviews, and movie reviews, please consider hitting that subscribe button and also ring that bell to get notified on all new videos. I'll be really busy this upcoming week with videos here on YouTube. Also, don't forget to hit that like button so the algorithm helps more people see the film. Also, leave a comment section down below. Tell me your ranking of the Harry Potter films. If you just want to rank the 8 actual Harry Potter films and not include the Fantastic Beasts, or include all 10, whatever you want to do, leave that in the comment section below so we can start a nice, fun conversation. So without further ado, because this will be a long video of 10 movies, let's get right into it. So my number 10 is number 4, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, here's the thing about me, guys. I have not read the books. A lot of people who are my friends and my family are diehard Harry Potter fans. But for me, I'm just judging them off the film. So if some of your favorite books might be at the bottom, some of your favorite movies might be at the bottom, that's how great of a franchise this is. Everyone has their different opinion. And I really enjoy, if not all, of the Harry Potter films, including the Fantastic Beasts movies. So for me, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire comes in at number 4. And for me, this is the most annoying film for me in the Harry Potter, in the Wizarding World franchise. I do love this cast, but for me, my main issue with the film is everyone, and also spoilers for all these movies if you haven't seen them. This movie, everyone is acting totally out of character because of these teenage angst that is put into the movie between our main 3 leads. Ron, who I thought is still one of my favorite characters in the franchise. This was, in my opinion, his worst character performance here in the movie. He was really funny and really entertaining in the first 3, and here he is a completely different character, especially towards Harry in the early part of the movie. The dance stuff worked, but there was a little bit too much of that teenage anger, angst. Everyone was annoyed in this film, and that did annoy me, as well as the tone doesn't really always work. For me, actually, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is the funniest movie, in my opinion, in the Harry Potter franchise, but it's also supposed to be one of the darkest. And for me, those 2 tones just don't clash all the time here, especially towards the end where an actual teenager, Cedric Diggory, dies, and you don't really feel his death, in my opinion, because he really isn't in the film that much, and they want you to really care for his character, but you really don't, in my opinion, especially when they try to add to that in Order of the Phoenix. So for me, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Some positives, though. I really loved every scene where he is in the competition, the first scene with the dragons, then with going into the ocean. All of that stuff, all those set pieces are really great, but the teenage angst get in the way too much, and the tone doesn't always click. My number 9 on this list is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. So yes, the Fantastic Beasts are not my least 2, so I'll tell you about that later. So Deathly Hallows Part 1 for me. Also, by the way, I've been really watching the movies now 10 straight nights, so these are very fresh in my mind as I'm reviewing this. Deathly Hallows Part 1 for me is just purely a setup movie, and it's probably, in my opinion, the most boring Harry Potter film in the franchise, in my opinion. Once again, Ron, for some reason, once again, for at least the first act, is acting completely out of character and actually leaves our Hermione and Harry off for a majority of the film. And because this is just part 1 of a 2-part film, you don't really feel anything urgent happening in this film because they're trying to give you a lot of information so you know what is going on in part 2. And sometimes that gets in the way. There's a lot of fun parts, though. I think my second favorite opening scene in Harry Potter is in this movie when everyone turns into Harry and they go off to not leave a trace of Harry himself. And that really works well. Also, I think Voldemort, who's supposed to be the big bad, especially in this 2-part, gets 2 scenes in this movie. He gets the great dining room scene, and then he gets the last scene where he finds the Elder Wand. So for me, the film is just too much of a setup. We're just camping and camping and camping in this movie, just being fed information that we need for part 2. My number 8 now on this list is Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Obviously, because it's the newest one. I watched this film last night, and I remember loving this film a lot more. I know a lot of you really hate this movie, but for me, I still have a lot of fun with it. It does have a lot of issues. I think the casting here, once again, is fantastic for me. Eddie Redmayne returning as Newt is really good. Jude Law, perfect casting as young Dumbledore. I'm trying to see what he brings to the table in the next 3 films. But for me, the huge standout here for me is Johnny Depp as Gellert Grindelwald. His character is super unique, and in my opinion, this film has the best opening scene that we've gone in the Wizarding World franchise. I think that this opening scene is super powerful. You get why Grindelwald is this powerful wizard just off the first scene. But for me, the huge issue with the film is that there are way too many characters with way too many subplots going on, and at times they just don't match up. They needed to give you a background on Newt's brother, and then Leta Lestrange, who's married to Newt's brother, but also really likes Newt. Queenie has her own journey in the movie. Kowalski, for some reason, we don't really get a reason why he's back, and I'm happy he's back because he's, in my opinion, the strongest out of the returning cast. But there's just way too much going on. Credence isn't in the movie enough for this film, and also the film's title doesn't really earn it. It really isn't really The Crimes of Grindelwald other than the opening scene. So for me, it's just an average movie. I don't really hate this movie. I remember liking it a lot more when I walked out of the theater 2 years ago. But for me, it's still a fun enough movie. But this also, compared to the first one, is a complete setup movie for future films down the line. And that's why I said about Deathly Hallows Part 1, this movie is a complete setup movie. Moving into my number 7, and then once again, we have controversial picks here, and that is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, number 6 here. For me, there's a lot to like, but there's also a lot to hate in this movie as well for me. Thinking about it now, a couple days later, I liked it a lot more than I originally did. But in general, I think the best part of the movie is just the dynamic between Harry and Dumbledore. I think that their relationship, because really in 5, what was so great is that Dumbledore just kept dodging Harry in Order of the Phoenix. But this one, he needs to tell Harry everything that is going, but not everything. Dumbledore's death in the end is really powerful. We really feel like all hope is lost for these kids and Hogwarts and the Wizarding World really itself once Dumbledore dies. But that part was when the third act is really good. Now, the movie for me has a lot of issues in it. And once again, Ron and Hermione have romance drama in this movie. We've really now starting from number 4, Goblet of Fire, Half-Blood Prince, and Deathly Hallows Part 1, which is 3 of 4 movies, all have relationship drama with Hermione and Ron. And I feel like we already got that beat over your head with Goblet of Fire, and this movie once again needs that because Ron and Hermione do absolutely nothing to help the story in the movie other than they're just fighting each other. Because Harry in this movie is just on his own journey. After training people in 5, this is just Harry's movie. And for me, Ron and Hermione are useless in this film, which is a complete disappointment. Also for a film to be the second to last story before our finale, the Deathly Hallows series, Voldemort isn't in the movie at all. And that was a huge disappointment for me because Voldemort for me is such a great villain, but he just doesn't get enough screen time. In this movie, I felt like I needed Voldemort. In the movie, but Snape has a good start. Draco, at this point in the franchise, had his best performance as well. So for me, it has a lot of good parts and a lot of bad parts that I can't really get over the hump. So my number 6 is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Now, yes, these are not the bottom 2 films for a reason. These are one of the most fun movies in the franchise, in my opinion, where maybe the plot's not the best, but the actual funness of these beasts and the story itself really helps this movie, for me, become a really solid film. And the cast is so great. Newt, once again, Eddie Redmayne, terrific. Kowalski, played by Dan Fogler, is really good in here once again. Colin Farrell, who isn't in the movie enough, but he plays Graves, a.k.a. Grindelwald in this movie, who we later know as Grindelwald. And that part of the plot works, but there's also a plot of they're going back and forth between these beasts and how fun the movie is. Then it goes to Credence being abused by his stepmom, and those tones for me never work. And at times it's a little too much of a back and forth. There's also a plot with John Voight in which his son's going to be the senator, but because he's a jerk to Ezra Miller's character, Ezra Miller kills him, and John Voight wants to expose the Wizarding World. doesn't really make a lot of sense. There's a few too many plot lines. Now, there aren't as many plot lines as The Crimes of Grindelwald, but for me, this is definitely a better movie than its sequel made 2 years later. So now in my top 5, and that is where we all began, which is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone if you lived in the UK. This movie for me ages well enough is what I'll say. I think that the movie at times doesn't really know what its plot is. For the first 90 minutes of the movie, it's just about how amazing this world is. It really does a great job world building, and you really want to be at Hogwarts, especially with these terrific castings, starting with Radcliffe, Watson, and Grint in their 3 lead roles. Snape, obviously, Alan Rickman. Hagrid, for me, is really great, especially in these first 2 films. But then the film does get super rushed, where it was like someone told Chris Columbus, don't forget this movie is about the Philosopher's Stone, and then we don't really get a mention of it until an hour and 10 minutes into the movie. And it felt like we didn't really have anywhere to go. Voldemort isn't really a presence in the movie, as well as the CGI. This is the movie, obviously, because it's the first one made in 2001. This is one of the worst CGI movies we've gotten in a franchise in a long time. I think luckily this franchise completely improves on its CGI, because especially the Quidditch stuff and when they're on their brooms, the CGI is pretty awful in this movie. But in general, it's such a bright movie, probably the most fun I've ever had watching a Harry Potter movie before. Great casting and a great world to start off this franchise. My number 4 here is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Now, I actually see people put this movie on the latter end of the movies, but for me, I actually really enjoy this movie, and a lot better than number 1 for me. First of all, our 3 leads are improved acting-wise once they get here into their second year at Hogwarts. Dobby, voiced by Toby Jones, is a great addition as well. This movie, once again, the problem with this movie for me is that we take a long time before we get to Hogwarts. There's a rescue scene where the Weasleys basically rescue Harry in the opening 30 minutes of the movie. And for me, completely unnecessary and really drags out this runtime. And this movie for me feels like a really long movie. And it is one of the longest Harry Potter movies we've gotten so far in one of the shortest books, which I think does catch up to it. But the ending is really powerful. We get Tom Riddle's diary in the movie, and you have Harry fighting the Basilisk, which is super fun to see. The fact that the Basilisk was part CGI, part practical, really comes off really well here. And in general, Lucius Malfoy is a great addition to the cast as well. I really enjoyed this movie over the first, because this film feels a lot more focused, and I'll say that about my top 3 as well. But in general, yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. It does have its flaws, as most of these movies do, but instead it's a really good movie. So my top 3 here, guys, I love to death all 3 of these movies. So it's been tough to make this list, but for me, these top 3 I knew were in my top 3, because I really do love these movies. My number 3 here is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is number 5. This is a really great movie. I think this is probably my favorite Daniel Radcliffe performance as our lead here, because Harry Potter becomes a leader in this movie. He tries to train really Dumbledore's army against Voldemort. He knows that after Goblet of Fire that Voldemort has awoken, and he needs to fight against that. And this movie does a great job of building Harry as a leader. In the first 4, he kind of lets everyone make his decisions for him. In this movie, he puts a stamp on. He's not taking crap from any character anymore. He needs to be the leader, because that's what the Wizarding World needed at the time. As well, Hermione was really good in this movie, and Ron, once again. For me, this also feels like a better movie just because they're not acting out of character, just like Goblet of Fire was. Also, Sirius Black gets the most screen time in this film, in number 5, and his relationship you really feel like Harry's father really is Sirius. And the third act of this film is perfection. Once they go in dungeon, and once you see Voldemort, once you get Dumbledore versus Voldemort part 1, and then you see Harry battling Voldemort in mind games, and after Sirius taught him, everything is so satisfying in this movie. Now, for me, my main issue with the movie is that Sirius's death doesn't hit as hard as I remembered. Before, when we watched them, I always remembered Sirius being a central focus in these films, but we watch him, he really is not he's barely in the franchise. And we'll talk about him later in Prisoner of Azkaban. And also, I'll get to that actually when we get to Prisoner of Azkaban. But his death doesn't quit hard because he's not in the movie quite enough. Moody is a good character as well. I mean, that was in Goblet of Fire, but I'm just saying in general, the film is really fun, really entertaining, and a really great one of my second favorite third act in this franchise. And now my number 2, which was always my number 1 until rewatches, and that is Deathly Hallows Part 2. This is, in my opinion, one of the most satisfying conclusions to a franchise that we might have ever gotten. I think Endgame and this movie are pretty up there in franchises' conclusions because everything this movie just puts a smile on your face. And because Deathly Hallows Part 1 sets up this entire movie, and I think sometimes it doesn't work, but Deathly Hallows Part 2 isn't trying to set up another movie. It's just its own movie. The only movie in the franchise, in my opinion, in any of these movies, that it's not trying to set up another film. The film, once you go right into the film, they're already going to the bank, then they're at Hogwarts, and there's nonstop action throughout this film. And that's why it feels like the most urgent, exciting, sad, and emotional film we've gotten so far in the franchise, which is super exciting. Obviously, this is the most that we have gotten from Voldemort screen time-wise in these films. He's in the last 20 minutes of Goblet of Fire. He's in the last 15 minutes of Order of the Phoenix. He is not in Half-Blood Prince, and he has 2 scenes in Part 1 of Deathly Hallows. I was really hoping we got a lot more Voldemort, and he is in this movie, and Ralph Fiennes kills it in this role, and you feel the tension, especially when he kills Snape. Really powerful. That was probably my favorite death we've gotten so far, just the emotion in this film. But the fact that there's no breaks, we're not trying to set up the movie. Ron and Hermione, their romance feels the best in this movie. Neville kicks a lot of butt. He kills Nagini. Everything is, McGonagall gets to be in the action. Everyone gets to be in the action. Ron's mom as well. It's such a satisfying movie and ends. And the movie, while you watch the movie, you just can't have a smile on your face. You cannot have a tear in your eye. And you just can't feel the sense of urgency watching this over and over again. I actually love this film. And moving into my number 1, and for me it's easy, and that is Harry Potter number 3 and The Prisoner of Azkaban. I remember always loving Deathly Hallows Part 2 a lot more than any film. But then everyone was like, this is the best movie. And boy, is this the best movie. Because the reason for me why this is the best movie, because for me, this is the most focused film in the entire franchise. A lot of these films are trying to set up other stuff, do multiple different plot lines. Everyone feels together in this movie. Harry and Hermione and Ron, they're all on the same journey in this movie. Because what they do great is that they give you hints about what is actually going on. They don't tell you what the big twist is, but they give you hints. Why is Hermione being able to show up to all these classes? And we find out later that she uses basically this time travel device. And that is such a satisfying and fun way, that a fun thing that I never thought could be a part of this franchise, but it is, and it's done very well in this film. Also, the film goes super dark, but because of amazing direction, I think the best director that we've gotten in the franchise, and it's the best directed movie, and it's this one, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, and he just dominates because he mixes why you want to be at Hogwarts and the funness of those first 2 movies, but also knows that both the characters have gotten more mature, and the movie gets dark. The imagery of the Death Eaters is really great, and you feel that Sirius is a very important character. You know, you don't see him until really the end 25, 30 minutes. You're being told the whole movie that he is the only man to escape Azkaban, which makes him probably the most dangerous person on the planet other than the person not to be named. And I love that the satisfying ending that Gary Oldman, who once again completely dominates in his debut role as Sirius Black, would have loved a lot more of him in this franchise. He's only really in 2 films. He gets a cameo in Goblet of Fire. He just isn't in the franchise enough. But this movie does a great job of building his character, and the ending, the reveals, the emotion, all works for me. And that's why Harry Potter and The Prisoner of Azkaban comes in at number 1. That is my ranking of the Wizarding World / the Harry Potter films ranked. I ranked all 8 movies, including the Fantastic Beasts films. If you are new to this channel and you enjoy streaming platform reviews, movie reviews, and TV show reviews, and rankings in general, leave that down in the comment section. Please hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification button you'll be notified for every new video that hits my YouTube channel. As well, guys, in general, I have a busy month of July coming up because obviously this is the end of June. Tomorrow, HBO Max just acquired the rights to Scoob. And I missed Scoob when it was originally a VOD release rental. Because it's free for me, I am watching Scoob tonight. And that'll be my last movie that I see in the month, last new movie I see in the month of June. So basically, I'll be watching Scoob tonight, doing a review for you guys here on this YouTube channel tomorrow. Then the first day of July, I'll be doing a ranking of all the new June releases, movie-wise, that I saw in the month of June, ranked. That'll be a whole video itself. Also, if you like this ranking, hit that like button as well. Really appreciate the support you guys have been giving to my YouTube channel. You can find my social media down in the description below. And I want to thank you guys so much. Leave your rankings down below. Do you want to include the Fantastic Beasts or not? Tell me that as well in the comment section below. And tell me, do you agree with my picks? What do you disagree with? Do you love Goblet of Fire? Or do you hate Prisoner of Azkaban? Tell me all those thoughts down below. I want to thank you guys for joining me on a new ranking of the Harry Potter franchise. I'll check you guys out tomorrow.